Today, let's talk about wine is in Lockport, New York at the Arrowhead Spring Vineyard, where we're going to have a conversation with Duncan Ross about wine and winemaking. So stick around while I ask Duncan Ross, owner and winemaker, 5 questions. Let's Talk About Wine is here today at Arrowhead Spring Winery, and I'm having a conversation with Duncan Ross, the owner and winemaker here. Thanks a lot for having us, Duncan. Really appreciate you taking the time in what is obviously a busy place for you because of this fantastic new facility that's under construction. So we'll get back to that later. I can see that's a nice goal that you're reaching here with a fantastic facility. But what I want to start out with is how you got started with all the winemaking. How did you get started into this?
Well, I heard it was a profitable business. Those people lied to me. No, seriously, I always wanted to get into this. And when back in 2003, we had the opportunity to pick up the land, and took that opportunity, 25 acres here on the escarpment. Seemed like a good time to start. There were, I think, 3 or 4 other wineries here at the time. Now in the town here, there's 7.
Wow.
And 21 on the wine trail.
So where does your wine education come from? I mean, no one comes into this knowing nothing. Do they?
That's true. No, everybody that comes into this knows something.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been a lover of wine for many years, and I've made wine since the early 80s, since probably 83, I think was my first.
Oh, no kidding.
At home solo. Used to make wine with my father back in the 70s. And did that for many, many years, got quite serious about it. And before we took a leap into this venture, my wife put the stipulation down that, if we're going to look for land, we're going to make sure that, we can do this in quantity, and we can do it well. And if it's judged well at an independent contest, not by our friends, that we would go ahead and proceed with the project. So we did that. And entered the Indiana State Fair. At the same time we were making the wine, we were looking for land, bought the land. What I didn't know at the time was she figured she was going to get a nice house in the country because we lived in Niagara Falls at the time, and she really wanted to move back to the country. And she figured that we'd enter the wine, it would do okay, but it wouldn't be anything great. Well, as luck would have it, I took Winemaker of the Year at the Indiana State Fair with a number of wines. I don't even remember. I think I put a Pinot in, Bordeaux blend, ice wine, and they called me up. I was here. I think my wife was in Japan or Korea or someplace like that, and the kids were smaller. And, contest is calling, and they're saying, "Look, the governor's going to award the trophy, and he'd like you to be here if you could." And I still remember, I was in these big rubber boots, I'm out in the field, and it's very muddy. And
feeling very winter-like, like you're a champion there.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I really wish I could be there, but I've got little kids, and my wife's out of town, and I can't do it. Can you ship it?
So you've had a pretty lengthy experience with wine starting out at your home. So during that time, you must have acquired a style of winemaking. So can you describe your style a little bit?
So our style is, I wouldn't say minimalist, but we do minimal intervention. We don't do no intervention. We do add sulfur for preserving, but we feel that wine is made best from the very best grapes. So we pay very, very close attention in the vineyard. We pay close attention to the vine maintenance. Leaf removal is key for us. Hedging, fertilizing, and if we can get really top quality grapes, the wine doesn't make itself.
Right.
But it's much, much easier to produce a high quality wine from high quality grapes it's impossible to produce a high-quality wine from lower-quality grapes.
Right. With all the fertilizing and pruning and canopy management that you do, how much would you say your wine making is science, and how much would you say is art?
No, that's a great question. The science guides the winemaking. It doesn't determine the winemaking. Mm-hmm. We do basic measurement, things like dissolved oxygen before bottling. Mm-hmm. You want to know how much oxygen is in the wine, which guides you as to how much sulfur you should add, because you don't want to add too much sulfur because it
right. starts
imparting a flavor of its own. You want to be right on the edge of what you need. Mm-hmm. Versus a more commercial product where they would just add a little bit more,
right? Sure,
and make sure that everything stays fine because they're not looking for
right.
Every nuance of flavor to come through.
Right. Your experience in New York winemaking, who have you looked to for inspiration, or are there people that inspire you, or even wines that inspire you?
Oh, absolutely. So. The neatest part about the wine industry, and I knew this going in because as a consumer, and I'm sure many consumers will see this, the winery owners are very open and friendly, mm-hmm. generally speaking, almost without exception. Willing to share, willing to talk, and that only increases when you're in the business and you can exchange ideas. So I think wineries that have inspired us over the years, Finger Lakes Shalestone Vineyards, they only do reds on Seneca Lake. Rob Thomas and his wife, very, very impressive wines. Gave us a lot of great advice in the beginning. There's some people also in the Finger Lakes Shaw Vineyards. Mm-hmm. Steve Shaw is making outstanding wines, also on Seneca Lake. McGregor's, they were an early favorite on Keuka Lake. Constantine Franks, mm-hmm. and I'm old enough to remember him. Walter Taylor from Bully Hill was a character as well. Yeah. And again, some of those folks aren't with us anymore, Walter and Dr. Frank. But there are a lot of people in this industry with a passion for making the best wine possible.
Absolutely.
And they're willing to share. They're willing mm-hmm. to have a conversation and to learn from each other, which is really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks very much, Duncan. I really appreciate it. This has been a conversation with Duncan Ross at the Arrowhead Spring Vineyard. Where can we find you on social media?
Arrowheadspring.com, and you can find us on Facebook as well.
Okay. And you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit the notification bell to get notifications of other upcoming and new videos for Let's Talk About Wine and Let's Talk About Wine, Ask 5 Questions. I'm Baron Lux. Thanks for watching. See you next time.